I don't know what I would have done without that. Uh, I would just gone downhill. Given up, and whether she comes back or not, there's hope and there's strength in this, and it saved me.
This is Relationship Radio, an extension of Marriage Helper International, hosted by renowned marriage and relationship expert Dr. Joe Beam and CEO of Marriage Helper, Kimberly Beam Holmes. We answer your questions directly with research-based principles that you can implement immediately. Regardless of the situation, what we teach will not only make your relationships better, but will also help you to become the best version of yourself along the way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Turn up the volume and prepare to take notes as we begin this week's episode of Relationship Radio.
Hi, I'm excited to be joined today by Lawrence over from Kentucky, right?
Right, Lexington, Kentucky.
So let's start. We'd love to just hear a bit more about your journey and where you've got to so far. So just starting off early on in your marriage and finding a bit more about how you met your wife.
Well, I was getting my master's at Indiana University in Bloomington, and my wife was getting her BA. And I was in a painting class, and she was in a drawing class. And she came out of the drawing class and saw me painting the hallway, a picture of the hallway in my painting. And she asked, "Why in the world are you painting the hallway?" She says, and I don't know, I have three different majors, but this was art, and they were doing nudes, and I didn't want to do nudes. My professor said during that time, if I want to, I could paint the hallway instead. So I was painting the hallway, and that's how she met me. And the next semester came around, and in the ceramics class, and we kind of got to know each other, and things went on from there. It was a very happy days. I can't, best days of my life.
What was it? What was it about your wife that first attracted you to her?
So much, everything. It's just her radiance, her smile, just so bubbly and just fun to be around. And we had a lot of similarities, a lot of things that we shared. We both were into art, and we loved, she's very talented, and she says I am, but I think she's more talented than I am. I've been an art teacher for 37 and a half years, and my other area is phys ed and health and Christian ed, but it's been art I've been teaching, and I've enjoyed that time. So she taught art for a while until she decided to leave art to start a business to get a master's in healthcare management. And that's, and that was several years ago.
And how long were you dating then before you got married?
I'm thinking probably it was fast, probably about 5 months. And then I proposed to her on Valentine's Day, actually, in a church parking lot that was in St. Joseph, Michigan. I lived there my senior year of high school and my college days. My parents moved there from upstate New York. And I gave her that ring. And
so you were young then? You were young.
Yeah, I was 31 and she was 26 at that time. Uh-huh.
So how long have you been married now?
Well, it would be 40 years this May 29th. She's been away for 3 years, just a little bit over 3 years now. We're still married. So it would be, like I said, our 40th. And I hope that she comes back, but it's in God's hands.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more about that. Obviously, we have a lot of listeners who've been going through a crisis in their marriage. So what was it that brought her to leave the marriage, or what were the circumstances around that?
I think it was a number of things in our marriage. I think we sort of grew apart because of circumstances that were in our life, things that came up. Let's see. I lost my job a few times. It was hurting, and then I think we had 3 sons, grown sons, and 3 grandkids, and our two youngest sons, our oldest is in the Navy, and he left out of high school he left out of college. The Navy talked him into joining, and so he's been away a long time. He's about ready to retire now, but that upset my wife, because him being gone so long. Our two youngest sons, well, they got into drugs, and that really disrupted our marriage. It was hard. Um, I think I was more of an enabler, and she was tough love. I thought a little bit too tough, and that created a lot of hardship in the marriage. It was a hard, rough time. They're doing fine now, and then having our son, his wife passed away, our middle son, and he moved in with us with the two sons. That was hard, but before that, off and on, he moved in with us with his wife, and then another time he moved in with a woman he met afterwards, um, who since then left him, and now he's married again, and that's hard. Um, but then my parents moved in with us from upstate New York. We went to pick them up. My dad had got Alzheimer's, and my mom was sick, and they lived with us. Until my dad passed away. Then my mom, right before my wife left me, well, a year before that. But it was pretty. These things were pretty rough. Plus, I think a big thing too is my parents living with us inspired us to start a business. That's why she decided to quit her teaching job at a private school and get her master's in healthcare management. I helped her through school there at Kentucky University. And after that, she wanted to start a adult daycare. Well, we found a place, and I got an inheritance from my aunt. She was very wealthy she inherited a lot of money from her great grandfather. It was distributed. I got a big portion, and that enabled us to get a loan from Kentucky Bank and to start this business she wanted. So we started that, and she didn't get as many people coming as she expected. The rent was very high, $5,000 a month, and we just couldn't keep up with it. So eventually, Kentucky Bank, we were ready to want all the money back, the loan, and well, of course, my inheritance that we had gone through that for this business, and we they were going to take our house, and they took my car for a while. And I had to go catch a ride to school and back where I taught in high school here in Georgetown, Kentucky. And but then we found another location, and Kentucky Bank said, "Well, we'll give you another chance." So we started up there. It was less expensive, this business, but then again, the rent kept going up, and we still didn't get enough customers. So we decided to branch out into to do home care. Okay, so we started that, and that's where it seems to be where things were. Well, we started to build up, but still, it was pretty hard. We were looking towards bankruptcy and so forth, and still all that. But the main thing is it was really rough starting the whole business. It's taking a risk, and she really wanted this business really badly because she saw a real need. She saw this from her grandmother and so forth, and she saw the need for this, and so it was her mission. But what happened? She met a man, and I won't go into the details, but that's her LO she's with. And she felt that he could really get this business going. And he actually runs the business with her, and she kicked me out of the business, actually. And I'm working for another company because I'm, as a retired teacher, I'm doing home care because that's what the people, they need. The people really need home care, the people I'm helping. But it's been hard, and the business is taking off. It's doing really well now, and it's fine. It takes a while to get a business going, but I still co-own the business with her, and she's been wanting a divorce, but it hasn't happened. Uh, Taxes are coming up, and that's confusing too with this business. But it's just, I guess I could say basically, life. The stress of our children, my job situation, especially the business, and then her dad and mom passing away. All that drew us apart. We're just so caught up in the stresses of living that we just lost our intimacy, our our time. We didn't communicate. To eventually, the thing is, she was with this man alone, and that shouldn't have happened. I didn't realize it, didn't see it coming. But that happens, and that's limerence. And we're all fallible creatures. We're not. We're all. None of us are perfect. If we put ourselves in that position where we're tempted, those things happen. And
I suppose I just want to stop you there, Lawrence,
right.
And feedback. I mean, I think a lot of people who are listening to this can resonate with what you're talking about. Life happens, and it sounds like you've been through a whole lot with your sons and your parents and business, and and you were persevering, you were getting through it, and then she meets someone. Now, right. I think, and that's very common, that that it's in a situation where you're kind of pushed to the extreme and focusing on all these other things which are really important, and then somebody just seems to come along. I think I would just feedback, it seems amazing that you just are able to see into that and kind of not get obsessed by this other person being the cause of it, because that's what we hear a lot from people, is like, it's all this other man's fault. That's the whole reason why our marriage has fallen apart, because of you. But you're able to see that. Having said that, it must have still really hurt when she, when she told you that there was someone else that she'd met.
It hurts. It's the worst thing, I mean, I can't, unless you've gone through it, you can't really understand. And it does make you a better person going through this. It makes you more compassionate to others. And I believe there's always a reason for things that happen in life. I believe God is in control, that He's sovereign. And one of my areas, one of my degrees is in Christian education. So I'm really, trust God, through all this. And I believe that, like I said, He puts us through things for a reason. And that there's nothing I can do to bring her back other than being a better person, the pies and so forth. And she's her own person, but I trust God, and I hope that she comes back.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about that. So this is the scenario. Your wife has said, after all of these years together, that she wants out. Not only that, but she's met someone else, and she's supposedly happy with him. So what's your motivation for wanting to save the marriage? Then why don't you just give up and say, okay?
Well, one word, love. I love her. So many memories. Our 3 sons, 3 grandkids, and she's always the most wonderful person. I saw how she cared for my parents when they lived with us, or our sons. She was the best mother. She was a stay-at-home mother for the longest time. And she just sacrificed. And I know she's a good person, but these things happen. Limerence changes a person, so forth. And
yeah. So let's talk about limerence a bit, because some people listen to this may have never heard that term. So it's this crazy in love drug feeling, which is can really make you feel like this person is the best thing that you've ever seen, and you can give up things that were really important to you before, including families, children, homes, just to be close to this person. So if you don't know anything about limerence, you can find on our website, marriagehelper.com, and search for an free ebook that we have all about understanding limerence. So if you don't understand, but it's true that that's where you feel that she is. She's in this kind of crazy in love with this person.
Right.
So what are you doing right now? You mentioned focusing, being the best person you can be. How are you doing that?
Well, it's the pies. If to become more attractive physically, for the P, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. And for myself, I think I need to work mainly on emotionally. I think we both, my wife and I, came from 2 different backgrounds, and I think, I've been, I don't know, I think going through this helps me to examine myself more and see where my weaknesses are. And my wife always said, "You don't see yourself as other people see you." And I think we need to look at ourselves more closely. And going through this program really helps to for me to look at myself and to see her also, and understand why this has happened, and to be more forgiving towards her. And that I don't have as much trouble forgiving her as her LO. That was really a hard thing because
The other man,
I saw this.
being
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
forgive
it's
him.
hard. Yeah, but I have, and it's a continual thing. I mean, I have to keep on forgiving because these emotions come up and things happen, and all of a sudden I get that feeling. I have to, and forgive them. And I know that God wants us to forgive others and love other people, and I do. So I do pray for him, my wife. But it's a process, and I have to keep on doing that because it comes up.
So you talk about our programs. You obviously found out about Marriage Helper.
Hmm.
So what of our resources have you done? What workshops or online courses have you?
Well, I think the first thing I the Save My Marriage workshop. I'm trying to think of the name. Anyway, that was that was a 12-week program, and I've gone through that program over and over again. I oftentimes I'll listen to it in the car when I'm driving. I'll get it up on my radio, and listen to that again because there's each time you listen to it, you learn more and more, and you have to apply what you learn there. And uh, then I think I ordered most of the other programs too. Smart Contact. The last one is why does my wife hate me? And that's a real insight there. And I've listened through that a couple times through, probably about 4 times through already.
Right, one
And
of our new toolkits. Yeah, why does my spouse hate me?
mhm.
Yeah.
And Dr. Beam's coming up with another program. Go order that also. But I'm really thankful. It's I have to work on that, my pies, and become that better person, and know that if anything works, this will. There's no guarantee, of course, but even if she doesn't come back, I'll be a better person through this, and that's the ultimate goal there.
And so you did some of our online courses and worked through those, and then you went to our solo spouse workshop. I understand as
Right.
well.
Uh-huh.
And how was that experience? That's 3 days on
That was
Zoom. Yeah.
that was very good. It was very intense, and I need to keep going over the notes and so forth, reviewing and so forth, and applying what I learned there. But it was at first I thought, is it worth it? Should I, and it didn't take me long to figure out that it is worth it. And I'll do it again and again because it was really well worth the money and the time. Um, it was just about 30 people in this group, I think, about there altogether, included Dr. Beam, and we through the Zoom and it was great. I mean, we could talk together and discuss what we're learning and have time to discuss it amongst ourselves in smaller groups and learn from each other. And it was, I mean, it's very enlightening. And we went up through all that and then more. And so I really enjoyed it, and it really it really is worth it.
So what were a key takeaway that you took from the solo spouse workshop that you feel like you've applied to your situation?
Well, there's several, but I think forgiveness is one. That I really need to work on forgiveness. And if I'm going to work on my pies, become a more attractive person, I need to stop thinking in terms of anger and be more forgiving. It's, like I said, it's a process. I have to keep on doing that, and I need to also look at the wall. Um, we through our marriage, all these circumstances put a wall between us, and before long, this wall we just weren't communicating. We were so busy working, and she was really busy working with this. I was too, of course, with this business, and it built a wall between us, and we lost the intimacy between us, two of us, and we have to bring that back again. And I think he talked about the 7 kinds of love and the triangulation of love. And then he also talked about the 4 horsemen, and all those things are things I need to work on and focus on certain ones. I need to look at myself and see where I'm the weakest and build up those areas. And I think that intimacy is one of those areas. I think the communication and understanding her and just opening up. I think.
Right. And that's something that, I mean, I'm really impressed you've got to the age of 71, as you shared with me earlier, and yet you're taking this time to re-examine yourself and say, how can I be better? I mean, that's
Right.
really impressive.
We all need to do that. Doesn't matter how old you are. We have to work on that. And this program really is, I highly recommend it. It was really good.
I suppose if you could go back to your old self, say 10 years ago, married to your wife, what would you do differently, or what would you tell yourself at that point?
It seems like yesterday. That was a little bit. We were thinking about the business then. I mean, she was teaching at the time at private school, and she was doing also summer camp, and with the summer camp, she was managing that, and she thought, well, I think I might want to manage, another something, which was this. But I think I tried to look at myself more closely in terms of what I've learned, and become to listen more to her, understand, and to not let those circumstances with her children, we're grown adults now, of course, in the business and my parents and so many things, to set time for ourselves to be together and take time out from our busy lives to be more intimate and understanding, and to listen more to each other, and just to be that loving person, to love her more, to show those feelings. So of course I love her, but just to show how much I love her. And if you don't keep working on that, it doesn't level out. It just goes downhill. You can either be going this way, building up, or going down. It doesn't plateau, really. If you think it's plateauing, it doesn't work. It's going that way or this way. And that's something we should have done. I think we couldn't stay this way. We had to go more this way to build that relationship and work on our marriage. And like she said, I needed to look at myself at other people, see myself as other people see me, and see myself as she sees me, and to understand her more, and just love her more, show her more affection, and be more intimate and less selfish, of course, with their own activities and things. Get so caught up in the daily grind that we need to just take time out.
Right. That's some great advice there. So where's your relationship at now? You've mentioned the fact that she's away and has been away for a number of years. Have you seen any signs of her moving back towards you?
Well, it's been about 40 months so far, and she's still in limerence, I think, towards the end of it. But it's also the lifestyle. The business has really taken off, and she's living, on a school teacher's salary. I didn't make a lot of money, and now she's living this elaborate lifestyle with him, new clothes and cars and things, and making, I would say, pretty big money with this business now, and that's another factor. But I think that's another thing that needs to be overcome. And I just have to be patient. And we still communicate, of course, with the children and the grandchildren, and things still come up. She contacted me yesterday about my middle son. There's some things happening. And during those times when we contact each other, I need to look at myself and not argue, not defend myself, all these things, but listen and understand and communicate in a wise manner, in a way that's open and not, like I said, not being defensive and argumentative, but stop and take time out to, to think about what you're saying and listen to what she's saying and understand her and to know that she's a good person, really, and she's going through this, and I'm no better than her. We're all so vulnerable to these things. So they happen in life, and if you look around, it happens again and again. And then not put her down for, not put her down for that, but to know that there is hope, and whether she comes back or not, there's hope there. Even at 71, and she just turned 66, and we're both getting up there in years, and she's still as beautiful as ever to me.
Yeah. So, you mentioned patience, and it's been 40 months. I'm sure a lot of people listening is like, how did you keep going for all that time, 40 months? How have you been able to stay focused and not just give up?
I think one of the big things is Marriage Helpers helps me to focus. So keep looking at myself and keep building my pies and building that confidence and strength. And I also read my Bible every day too. Like I said, I like to read my Bible, and I think God speaks to me through His Word. But there's a lot of factors there. But Marriage Helpers, I'm so glad I found this Marriage Helpers, because you can't do this by yourself. And go. I believe God's with me, but He brings people into your life. And God, He brought Marriage Helpers into my life. Other people in this program, other people are going through the same thing. I've done group coaching, I've done the coaching, and so forth, and just communicate with others that are in the same boat. It helps so much. We need each other, and boils down to Marriage Helpers really has been a big help. I'm so thankful.
Well, I'm so thankful that you found us. I'm thankful that you've come this far. And, like you say, if anything works this well, and even if it doesn't, even if she doesn't come back, there is hope for you in your situation. Right. I suppose just to finish it off then, if there's somebody who's in maybe you 40 months ago, who's just found out that their wife wants out and maybe has met someone else, what advice would you give to them?
I would say to hope, not give up. I think if you listen to other people, there's so many friends, relatives, they're so negative. They just say, find someone else, divorce. I don't want someone else. And I would say, get that support from Marriage Helpers. They have so much available there, so many programs, coaching and group coaching, and the 3-day workshops, whether it's a solo workshop or a hope that we can go to my wife and I together for the workshop. We don't live too far from Nashville anyway, but through Zoom is so. Zoom is so technology today. It's great.
Yeah, you can do the workshop from anywhere, but if you are close to Nashville, really, then head on over and join one of the in-person. Yeah.
Although I love Nashville, it's a wonderful city, but I would get hooked up with Marriage Helpers and get on board with this program and with others, and that's what you really need to do. I would highly recommend that, because I don't know what I would have done without that. I would just gone downhill, giving up, and whether she comes back or not, there's hope and there's strength in this, and it's saved me.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you today, Lawrence. It really has, and I wish you all the best in your marriage journey.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Relationship Radio. Please refer to the notes in the description to learn more about any resources mentioned in this episode. Please visit our website at marriagehelper.com for more information about our online courses, marriage workshops, and coaching. If you would like immediate help for your marriage situation, then click on the link on the screen to schedule a free marriage strategy call with one of our team members. We exist to help save marriages and strengthen families. We look forward to interacting with you on the next episode of Relationship Radio.